I want to look at Spain, and Spain's going to explain what some problems are with trade in Victoria III. Spain has been famous for its iron exports. In fact, from 1871 to 1914, 80% of Britain's imported iron came from Spain. Now, they made a lot of iron themselves on the islands, but they had to import more from Spain, about 150 million tons a year, to support their steel industry. Massive, massive import there. Spain is like Sweden, but warmer, if you consider it that way, because they both make a lot of iron. So right now we've got a situation where Spain has a balance of minus 233. They're not self-sufficient in iron, and they're actually importing some from Tuscany. Why is this happening? Look at the potentials they have here, and then look at what they produce. Oh my gosh. This is the problem in Victoria 3. We have a lot of situations, that's just one of them, where the game doesn't build the right way. It doesn't build enough basic materials. And then we get to the problems in the mid and late game where nobody makes any rubber and nobody makes any oil, so nobody makes anything that requires rubber or oil because they're not there. They're waiting for that good to show up, but it's not there. Once the good shows up, then they can make it. And it very often falls to the player to actually get the ball going and pursue the development of those resources and then the trade in them. It shouldn't be that way. People saw the potential in these goods and they started going for it, knowing that they were going to be able to utilize them in these other industries. There should be something in the game that keeps them going. I don't know if it should be a subsidy or a company or something, but it should get those things started, some kind of jump start. And what I'm doing in this particular game, I do have some mods running, but I don't have any economic ones. And I did a vanilla run up to 1860 and got some very similar results to this. And the results are that if you take a look at iron trade, is one that I've been focused on. We saw Spain. Now we take a look at England. England looks like they're doing okay-ish. Well, they've also brought Belgium into their group. And Belgium has the water tube boiler. And this is about the time period where water tube boilers start to be adopted by the major iron-producing nations. And they go and they change their mining method to use the different pump, the better one that goes with it. And they make a lot more iron as a result. Well, great. France has got it right now. Belgium has it now. Sweden has it now. That's why they're making so much more. England, Prussia, and Austria, and Spain don't yet have it, so that's why they lag in their iron production. Okay, but Spain is going to continue to lag even after it discovers that technology because it just doesn't have a lot of mines. And when England discovers it, you take a look at the mines that it does have, Midlands, Newfoundland, Tasmania, there's a lot of them there. Once those go on to the new method of mining, they're going to explode, and England's going to have a lot more iron as a result. Go them. That's awesome. That's great stuff. But up until this time period, there's been shortages in England, in France, and Prussia. And it just drives me nuts because when I'm a player, let's say I'm playing France, first thing I do is I start making more iron mines in Alsace-Lorraine. And when I have them going, I have enough iron for myself and I can export it, and I'm making a lot of money that way. And I'm going, what's wrong with the rest of the world? Why am I making 1.83 thousand units of iron and everybody else is around 300-400 if they're in the top producers? We look at this number one producer worldwide. That 1.8 for the French Empire, they could have had that back in the 1840s. All of them could have had it. I did one run where I sort of fudged it and gave every country in Europe that had a lot of iron the capacity to have, I created a company to go with them that would be basic metal mining. Just if you have an iron mine and you donate it to the company, it becomes one that gives you plus 10% iron throughput. All right. Well, I just turned that on for every country that I could. I'm doing a lot of tag switching. And as soon as that company came into being, now there was just one iron mine that I built in France, Austria, Sweden, England, Spain, Prussia, just one iron mine. Oh, Belgium too, one iron mine. Turned it over to that company, and then went on observer mode. Come back, and they are all flourishing. The company is driving that production, not me. You put a company in there, and it goes insane because the AI says you build, the company will build more of this stuff, and it works out great. And it gave me an idea, and I'm working with Sasko, who gives us the Grand Revision set of mods. We were brainstorming this, and we think we have something that might work out. If we can provide a mechanism, and perhaps it would be via a journal entry system. Okay, like we've got path liberalism, accomplish these things, and you get the path done. Well, what if we had something that we made the AI want to follow it, where we would say, for example, in Sweden, they should have a national capability to produce a lot of iron. Let's say also timber. Okay, so we would say your journal entry requires that you build lumber mill and iron mine. Once those are done, and it would be like the industrialization tutorial that they have, or just the industrialization path. It'll say, here's your goal: build an iron mine in Yorkshire for England. And you build the iron mine. Hey, congratulations! Now build a textile mill in Midlands. Okay, build textile mill. Hey, you did it. Okay, well, if you have these things going on, build iron mine, build forest, don't privatize, and then create company. Then you get the Swedish, let's call it invisible hand. And it then says, okay, all iron and forestry fall under this company, and it'll start pushing more of it out. Is it realistic to say that this is all owned by a company? No. Does it produce something better for the game? Yes. We're not looking to create realistic companies. We're using the company as a mechanic to create realistic national output. Now, in Victoria 2, we didn't have companies. We had national output. And because you could only have one particular good per state, then, yeah, you had a lot of iron coming out of Sweden because that's all they had in that one state. And the other one had wood, and that was it. Well, now we can make a bunch of everything in every state, so we need to have a company to help drive that. And think of it not as a company, but more as a national competitive advantage. Going back to Spain, like Sweden, Spain had a lot of rich iron deposits, and it made they weren't using them in the local steel industry all that much, so it made it a perfect export good. Spain would do that, and most nations in Europe have interests that overlap, so they're able to trade with everybody else in Europe. The rest of the world, like Latin America, Asia, Africa, obviously that's going to take some building and get your navies out, send your interests far and wide. But within Europe and the United States, there's enough trade that's going on between them already that we don't have to worry about there being market access. They've got market access. So, but some kind of national spirit, some kind of invisible hand journal entry that says, build these things, create this company, and the company will then continue to make things that this place was famous for making because it has a natural competitive advantage in making that stuff. And we would then see more of this stuff getting made, cheaper prices, and with the cheaper prices, AI is more likely to build things that require them, like more tools, more engines. You see where this is going. If you have more wood and iron and coal, among other basic goods, if you have more of those, then you have a cheaper price, and that makes it more profitable to build the secondary and the other levels of production that vertically integrate with that. But if we are constantly short of iron, we're never going to make enough iron tools, because if we look back at the market, let's see, oh yeah, they're short on tools. How are you doing for tools, England? Ooh, wow, you need a lot. France, you're doing good with your iron finally, but you're short on tools. Prussia, yeah, you're doing okay on tools, but ooh, you need a lot more iron. And probably if you go with more iron mining, you're going to need a lot more tools, and it's just going to get messy that way. Russia needs more tools. Everybody needs more tools. And when we go over to steel production and we see more of that being made, because I don't see any steel happening in Russia, I do see steel in France. There's, Prussia could use some more steel. How you doing for steel? England. Okay, you're almost caught up there. Very good, very good. But we still want to get more of it made. We want to have more of it, and there would be more going on. In games where I'm pushing it as the player, and I've got more stuff being made, I find that that does jumpstart the global economy. So if we take a look around this time period, 1857, 1860, we are getting close to that 1 billion mark. And if I take a look at global GDP right now, it is 645 million. So it's lagging. You could say, well, not by much, but yeah, it is by much. I'm close to a billion around this time. This is close. This is close to 650 million. We're coming up short here. Britain could have so much more. Other nations could have so much more if they were doing a better job of making those basic goods available. So that's the mod I'm working on. We're going to see if we can build journal entries to push this forward, and we would like that better than ones that say just drop down a building and make it owned by make it owned by a company, because if the map changes, it breaks that mod. If we instead say build this out, it's something that every playthrough, it allows that gradually to happen. That event, we still have big shortages in the 1830s. It's horrible. It's a Malthusian nightmare. But then we emerge from it over time. But we should just be emerging a lot more rapidly than the way we're emerging right now, which is you have to wait till around the 1860s for that one mining type to happen, and then other stuff goes on. And by the way, this is just looking at it with a mostly vanilla system. If we use AI mods or mods that goose trade, we will see some insane things like a nation doing a massive amount of imports and a massive amount of exports, and you follow the trail, and it's this big circle between nations. They're all exporting and importing the same good with each other. They just don't know it, and it's just whirling around. Or nations that export more of a good than they make themselves plus import. Like I've seen games where Sweden is exporting 500 iron and it only makes 300, and it imports another 100 from Belgium. And it exports the iron to England, and England is exporting iron to Belgium, and it's like, oh no, I have this circle going on, and it's exporting what it should. Meet your local demand, number one. That needs to be a thing in the game. Clear your local market. Then what's left over can be exported. And if you don't have a leftover, you need to import only from what is left over from other people. And if you can't import somewhere from somebody, you need to make it yourself, or go into another country and pay them to make it. And that's the last thing that needs to be fixed. The ability for different countries to realize market opportunities outside of their own market. If Spain should be able to see that, or Sweden should be able to see that it's got this. Yeah, I'll go to Sweden here. Sweden should be able to see that, yeah, it's making plenty of iron, and it should be exporting tons of the stuff, and it is 708 to Russia and Prussia, and a little bit to England, 5 of them. You know what? Sweden should be realizing that it could make a lot more iron and export to a lot more places. It needs to be able to realize that and build towards that market, build towards that potential. If we go into other countries and if they're not part of our market, we build a factory for something or build a mine for something in that other country. If they don't have demand within that market, it never gets enough people to work there. And it never makes the thing that we would then want to import. For example, if I'm Britain and I want to import rubber from Brazil, if Brazil's not part of the British market, I can build all the rubber plantations I want in Brazil, but if there's no demand for rubber in Brazil, nobody ever works on them. I'd have to actually build a tire factory in Brazil, and then they go, oh, well, now we can make rubber, and now they get it on the market. Now I can start to import it from them, but it should be a situation where if you build a factory with your money in somebody else's country, there should be some kind of impetus to import that from that factory to your own, create that trade, create that stimulus to get people employed. It's so frustrating to see thousands upon thousands of peasants in a country, in a state, and I've built something there and they refuse to work in it because there's no demand there for it. Well, of course there's no demand for it there. there's demand for it in my country. That's why I built the factory there, because you could make it cheap. And then I have to invade that country, take it over, being it part of my empire. And then, before the sphere of influence, I had to actually conquer the place. Now it's like, okay, I just have to bring it into my market. I have a trade thing going. We're fine. We're fine. Making my market. And they'll build for it. But we need this global market mechanism, something that will track what is being produced, what is being consumed, what is being produced in a market that is in excess of what that market needs, that's available to meet a need in another market, and then establish trades based on that. Because it is insane to see this kind of where they're importing and exporting the good. This should not be happening. I know it did actually happen in real life, but it should not be happening because we're not differentiating between different types of iron ore, different types of coal. And the kind we have here we can't use in our factories. We need the kind they make in Prussia. But by the same stroke of luck, the Prussians need this kind of coal because they can't use the kind that they have in their coal seams. Okay, yeah, that makes it. But we're not differentiating. We're just saying coal is coal, iron is iron. And they shouldn't be exporting and importing it in a game that is abstracting trades. Pick one, pick the other, and you shouldn't be exporting if you haven't even made enough of the stuff yourself to satisfy domestic demand. So yeah, they made 5.32. They have buy orders for 5.71K. They've got enough for 5.2. So they should only be trading like 100 instead of 500. That's what they have left over. Anyway, something should be tracking all that and then realize here's where we have opportunities for actual trades in actual goods. That may be outside of the scope of this mod that we're thinking of, but if we can at least get them to make more of the stuff, we should be able to see more of these things in plenitude and more rapid development of the global economy, which we think would be more historical, and see actual trades develop that base on historical strengths of a particular region. So, like, comment, subscribe, clean your bathroom, go to sleep early, wake up on time, get a better job. You do all these things if you enjoy the video, or just like, comment, and subscribe. If that's, the others are too difficult. And hopefully I'll have more news on that mod later on. He's on vacation now, so we can't work on it, but we'll give it a try. We'll give it a try. Have a fun one. Bye-bye.